Hi everyone tuning in. So this is our Instagram live Q&A sessions. So today's guest is Brendon Sing. He's the founder of Shark Guardian. He's going to be joining us in a second. We're just waiting for him to join. Last week's guest was Dano Wild, who was a wildlife filmmaker. Unfortunately, Instagram kind of malfunctioned a little bit last week, so we couldn't save the live Q&A. So you can't see that on our YouTube channel, but you can see the previous Q&As on our YouTube channels, and also on our IGTV on our Instagram, so feel free to check that out. I am hoping that Brendon will be online any minute and he can join us. If you haven't seen it already, we are starting our sustainable fishing project. So you can check out, we launched that the day before yesterday, the fundraiser for that. You can check that out, and the fundraising page actually has loads of information, background information of the science and how everything runs. So yeah, you can check out that fundraising page and that will give you loads of information. It's so important here because COVID-19 has meant that there is an increase in illegal poaching in the area because people are just desperate. Tourism has stopped because of COVID, so people are just fishing whatever they can, and our sustainable fishing project means that people can continue to fish and feed their families, but they can do so legally, they can do so sustainably, and we're helping provide the equipment and the opportunities to be able to do that. So if you'd like to be involved in that, please visit our fundraiser page. The link is in our bio, so you can check that out. And we really do appreciate any support. So even if you can't donate, if you can share the fundraiser, if you can get your friends to follow our account, because actually following our account also means that we're more likely to get more funding and equipment sponsors as well. Brendon's online, so I'm just going to add him to the chat now. Hopefully the internet will hold up and we can answer all your questions. It's just loading. He's joining us off the Shark Guardian account. Yay! Hello! Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly.
I can't hear you that well. There's a lot of background noise.
How's this? Does that work better?
Yeah, that's a little bit better, yeah. Yeah, perfect actually.
Okay.
Cool, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. And yourself?
Yeah, good, thanks. You're in Thailand?
I'm based in Thailand at this point, yes.
Nice, nice. Living out there, like, how's COVID and how's everything holding up with?
It's the same as everywhere, I guess. Although I think Thailand has handled the situation really well from the very beginning. So we don't, there wasn't that many cases here, certainly very few deaths. They seem to jump onto it quite quickly. And I think that if anything comes around again, they'll come on very quickly onto it again. So I think they've done surprisingly quite well, actually, yeah. So we've been happy to be here, definitely. There's a lot more freedom here in terms of moving around and going places, definitely.
That's pretty good. Yeah, his Moz has been pretty good on keeping everything under wraps as well. So for people tuning in now who might not know what you guys do you want to just introduce yourself and what Shark Guardian does?
Thank you, yes. So my name is Brendon Sing. I am originally from South Africa, and I am one of the directors of Shark Guardian. And just to tell you a little bit about what Shark Guardian does, we are a UK charity, but although we are a UK charity, we have different projects happening around the world, including UK, Europe, Africa, the Middle East, and of course, largely in Asia. We have four main arms of operation, that being conservation, where we run our campaigns and do outreach, and a lot of our campaign work comes from that department. We do a lot of education work, where we go to schools, do a lot of talks to kids about sharks. We run educational programs for kids. We do so for dive centers, dive communities, and public events. We write children's books, and we're involved with a lot of shark diving education work, so that's a lot of fun. The third thing that we do is we do a lot of research, so research that we lead ourselves through different citizen science projects. And we also currently fund some research happening through universities in the UK. And then the last thing that we do as our arm is we run expeditions where we take people around the different parts of the world diving with sharks.
Nice. I think you just froze a little bit there, but you're just saying that you run expeditions?
That's correct. Yeah. So we run expeditions in various parts of the world. Like normally every year we come to South Africa for the sardine run down in Port St. John's in July. Unfortunately, that didn't happen this year. Really gutted about that. So hopefully we're going to make that work for next year.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Okay, for people that are tuning in that might not know what Love the Oceans is or what we do, so my name's Francesca and I'm the founder of Love the Oceans. We're a marine conservation NGO. We work in Mozambique and we are working to establish a marine protected area here. So we do a lot of different areas of research and outreach. We do fisheries research, humpback whales, coral reefs, ocean trash, marine megafauna and fisheries, and then we have 2 community outreach projects teaching basic marine resource management and swimming lessons, and we have an alternative livelihoods plan as well. That's what we would normally be doing, but because of COVID, our work has kind of ground to a halt. We're not allowed to do a lot of it because Mozambique's been on a national lockdown. So we have increased our online presence and have started this Q&A series to talk to really interesting guests like yourself. And invite people on and talk about all things conservation. So we've had loads of questions sent in, and people who are tuning in now, feel free to type questions in the comment box down at the bottom, and we'll try our best to get through them. And we've also had some questions sent in beforehand. If you're good with it, should we jump in and try and answer some of them?
Yeah, sure. Shall I just read the questions and I'll kind of get to it? So the first question was, what is your story? How did the founding of Shark Guardian come about, and what inspired you to start it? So I'll work a little bit backwards. I was inspired by learning more about sharks when I was around 10 years old. And we used to go to the aquarium with the family, and of course the most fascinating thing to look at the aquarium is sharks. And all I wanted to do was learn how to dive with them. So when I was around 10 years old, I went to my parents and asked them if I could learn to dive to go see sharks. And of course they said, no, are you crazy? What's wrong with you? So I nagged and pestered until I was 16. And eventually I went to my dad and asked him, can I learn how to dive to go see sharks? And he was like, yes, fine, just don't tell your mom. And I went and became a scuba diver. And of course, diving in South Africa doesn't take a long time until you see a shark. And when I did see that first shark, I scared it off, like within seconds it disappeared, and everything that everybody told me about sharks was completely wrong, and it changed my life forever. So I went into shark research through university, became a professional diver, and so educating people about sharks and researching sharks I've been doing for over 20 years. I've logged over 7,000 dives. I've taught a lot of people to dive with sharks. And going through the research route allowed me to write up specialty diving programs about sharks for the public, which is a lot of fun. So ultimately, we became an official charity in 2013. I did that with my wife, Elizabeth, who's the other co-director. But of course, we've been doing a lot of stuff prior to 2013 up until we became a charity. So that's kind of how it started, really. And we've been going to a lot of different schools around the world, talking to kids about sharks. And that's kind of how the charity came about. That was our first thing. Education was always a big part of what we did. Mainly because although I was heavily involved in research in South Africa, working with great white sharks for 5 years, a lot of people would, again, say to me, like, what's wrong with you? You go diving with sharks, and like, haven't you seen that movie Jaws? So I realized that as much as the research is very important, there was a great need for education. There's a great need for awareness and outreach. So I wanted to change the world's perspective on sharks, and the best way to do that is to start with kids, and that's how it came about.
Nice, that's pretty cool. Education is so important with this kind of work. We have a large education component to what we do as well, and changing people's perception of sharks is so important, especially given those like cult movies like Jaws. And well, to be honest, there's still movies coming out now that paint sharks as the villain, which is kind of mind-blowing that we're still doing it after however many years. And however much science proves us wrong.
Sure.
But yeah, education is so important. So kudos.
It is, you know, like, it's good that you mentioned the movie Jaws, because I mean, the movie Jaws was made in 1975. Now that's before even I was born. Yet when we go to schools, we're talking to kids who are 10, 12 years old, and they've seen it, you know, and they're scared because they've seen it. So it's amazing how a movie, even that old, just because it's a classic and it actually gets passed down from one generation to the next, how that instills this negativity towards sharks even in kids today.
Yeah.
So it's important to try and change that immediately.
And it's pretty crazy that Peace Benchley, the author of Jaws, regretted writing Jaws, because obviously Jaws was a book before it was a film, regretted writing Jaws so much that he spent his entire life until he died advocating for sharks and trying to essentially undo what his movie did, which is really sad, but I mean, I guess it shows that people learn from their mistakes.
Oh,
it's
definitely.
Just a shame that more people don't know about that.
Sure. No, you're totally right. I remember what he said was that he had no idea that his book and the movie would have such a profound impact on the image of sharks, and also how it motivated so many people to go out and just kill sharks. He had no idea that would be the reaction.
Yeah, it's that tapping into that like primal fear, I guess, and people just, it's a bit crazy. Like there's still culling that goes on now. So like you look at the shark attacks that happen around the globe. That's like one fatal shark attack every 6 months, or even that is a bit like. People still go out and cull sharks as a result of one person. You think about how many people are going into the ocean and our growing human population, and how much human shark interaction there actually is compared to how many like fatal shark attacks there are, and it's a bit nuts that we still have that primal fear when we're definitely the apex predator in the mix.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, part of my research in university is I studied shark attacks reports from worldwide going back as early as 1580. And, on average, the number of people that are killed by sharks is still under, 7 or 8 a year from all that time. Last year in 2009, we only had 2 fatalities of shark-related incidents on human. So that just shows that, they don't eat us. They've never eaten us, because if they did, you'd lose 100 people a week or 1,000 people a month. So the statistics speak for themselves. You're originally from the UK, right?
Yeah, originally from the UK, yeah.
So just to give you an idea, in the UK alone, there was, since the year 1780, there was only 3 fatalities up until now. And 2 of those fatalities were in the early, I think it was 1958 or 1957, when 2 guys tried to explode using explosive to blow up a shark, and they blew up themselves instead. And they were counted in that account.
What idiots. Wow, yeah.
So and there's so many. The thing is, it's funny because I can guarantee 99.99% of the time, shark attacks that happen, it's our fault. We're putting ourselves in the wrong place at the wrong time, doing the wrong thing. Yet it's our fault, because we shouldn't be in that situation in the first place. They've been in oceans for 400 million years. Yet when shark attacks happen, they always say it's the shark's fault. And then, as you say, our typical naive way of thinking is like, oh, let's go and do our cull because we think we're above it, and we're not.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts.
Yeah. Really
okay.
Nuts.
The next question was about your Finspire campaign that you've you've just reached over 100,000 signatures on it. So can you tell us about that campaign, what it was, what the kind of like next steps in it, all of that kind of stuff are?
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. And to get to the beginning, before Brexit happened, there was a campaign to try and stop the importation of shark fin coming into the UK. And that petition reached, it got past the first leg of 10,000, which the government responded. But I think overall they didn't get much more than 11,500 signatures. And in that response, they actually said that although the UK would be interested in looking at protecting sharks more, they couldn't do so because they're part of the EU. So since the UK has formally left the EU, we decided to kickstart that campaign again. And we gave it a name. We called it Finspire Change. And the reason why this is so important, because there's a loophole in the system where it allows anybody to bring in 20 kilograms of shark fin into the UK legally without declaring it, just walk straight in, no problem. But you can't even bring in like a block of cheese or a liter of milk into the UK. So it falls under the dried fish category, which is absolutely ridiculous. So there's a lot of problems that come up with that. You know, first of all, the UK says they are bound by CITES regulations, where they're not allowed to trade endangered species. But if they're allowing people to walk in with 20 kilograms of shark fin, how do they know that doesn't belong to sharks that are endangered or is under CITES? So it opens up a big can of worms. So basically, this campaign exists to show that it's very easy to close this loophole because they don't have the resources or the knowledge to monitor it. So the easiest thing for them to do is to ban this, you know, to close off this loophole, and that's ultimately what we want. So we needed 100,000 signatures to for it to actually be accepted into Parliament for debate, and we hit 115,380 by the time it closed on the 11th of September. So it's the first step in a bigger picture, but it's a good first win.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so it's very exciting.
What are the next, like, how does that progress now then?
So what's really important now is that we don't just stop now and wait until the Parliament date. What we're doing now is we're going to be encouraging the public to email their MPs. So we actually have a detailed map of where all the signatures were originated, where people were signing, like which part of the UK they came from. And what we're going to be doing over the next few months as we wait for the debate date, because we don't know when that's going to happen yet. But in the meantime, it's very important for people to send personal emails and messages to their MPs, reminding them that this campaign reached a pivotal point right now. It got to 115,000 signatures. It will go to Parliament for debate, and it's important now to remind them so they are aware of it. And when it does come to Parliament, they'll be like, yes, that's this campaign that I've been emailed 50 times about or 100 times about. And we have actually had some communication with the MPs already. Some of them have been very responsive. Some of them even signed the campaign, the petition themselves. So we've had some really good feedback, really good responses already. So at this point, we feel very positive. But it's going to be important now to make sure that we get people behind it by emailing their MPs and expressing their wishes and their thoughts on this topic.
Can people find information about that on your like Instagram, on the link in your bio or anything like that?
Absolutely. So periodically you'll see our Instagram messages will be, we're going to be coming up with a whole new range of pictures of the MPs and also their constituents and which area they're from. And their emails will be there. So what we're going to do is when people see that, they'll be able to grab that image, send it off immediately to the MP. We're going to have a template on the website where people go to the Inspire Change page on our website. They'll have a template email there, but don't just copy and paste. This is important. Just take there's a list of facts and just kind of grab the facts that you'd like to use and make sure you do a personal message. Otherwise, it gets spammed. That doesn't come through. So this will be detailed on the website. It's going to be active this coming Monday. So all the information will be there from Monday onward.
Nice. Okay, everyone's going to watch out for that one then. Get involved.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Then someone actually has asked how you started that campaign in the first place. Like, how did you, the logistics of starting that?
No problem. So yeah, there was so we didn't start the petition ourselves. Yes, I'm still here.
Cool.
Am I coming through okay?
Yeah, there's just a little bit of a delay. But if you want to say how you were, how you kind of like the logistics of that campaign and how it kind of came about.
Sure. So we didn't start the petition ourselves. It was actually another member of the public that started it, but he emailed us, and he emailed several shark organizations in the UK and internationally, and we were the only ones who responded, apparently. And when we responded, we said, you know what, we're going to grab this thing by the horns and we're going to run with it. And COVID-19 offered an opportunity for us to run this campaign completely through social media.
Yeah.
So it was challenging, but we also had a very specific plan in place. So we had to make sure that we had images that were recognizable. We had a logo, we gave it a name, we made sure we had the hashtags in place because everything was going to be run on social media. So all the images had to have a theme, we had to have consistency, and we had to have a very detailed plan of how we're going to launch the different images across social media. And we made a list of about 6,000, a list of 6,000 individuals, personalities, media, dive
Wow,
centers, all
that's a
the
big
training
list.
organizations. It was about 6,000 individual contacts that we
Wow.
put together on this list. And then it was a matter of between 3 or 4 of us to try and target all of those different contacts in some way or another to try and push the campaign forward. In the end, we actually had, because it was still like the last 10 days, we still needed about 50,000 signatures, right? So we were very nervous the last 10 days going into the campaign. But luckily, we had some amazing photographers and videographers who they had contacts with BBC wildlife presenters and personalities. We were tagging all different kinds of celebrities. But in the end, some of those really pulled through, did some live updates, like live Instagram sessions, live Facebook sessions. And then we started getting about between 8 and 12,000 signatures a day within that last week, and we smashed it.
Wow, that's awesome. Did you focus
Yeah.
on like one social media platform, or did you kind of spread across all of the social media platforms? Like, how did you choose?
So I think primarily we really targeted Facebook and Twitter as our primary. And then, of course, Instagram played a large part in there too, but especially reaching out to celebrities and certain personalities, Twitter was best, not Facebook. Facebook was really great for getting onto groups, diver groups, other NGOs. Facebook was great for that. We also had EcoSapien, which is a YouTube-based wildlife video group, and they made a short documentary on the campaign, so that was amazing. So we covered YouTube that way. So a little bit of everything really, but I'd say primarily it was Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram were the best outreach tools.
Yeah, well, it clearly worked. So congrats.
Yeah, thank you. That was really cool.
No worries. So you actually already kind of answered the next question, was around like tactics that you've found useful for running the campaign. What would you say is like your most useful tactic for running campaigns?
I would say that nothing worked better than putting yourself on camera and giving a personal message. Because when people see that it's personal, you're passionate about it, it really matters to you, that's when people responded. So forget emails. Direct messaging was great, but what I'll do is I'll attach that video on there. So I would make like a video a week, just absolutely pleading my heart out for people to join me and and help out and share, and that's what really worked. I would be video messaging people directly, and that probably worked better than anything else. Nothing works better than that personal message, and it's not just like one message and you share to everybody. No, I would make a video speaking to the people I was messaging directly, and I would spend hours and hours and hours doing it, and it worked.
Yeah, I think having that face to like, you feel like you're talking to someone, not just like a big organization or anything like that. Like it's that personal connection, right?
So that's it. I just basically went on Facebook and I went through all my contact lists and I just sent every one of them a personal message. And this campaign, you had to be a UK national or UK resident to sign it. So even if I was messaging somebody who was European or African or whatever, it didn't matter, because certainly those people would have friends who are from the UK or EU. So it was really, really important to get that message across. Like, even if you can't sign it, please share it.
Utilizing those networks.
Big part. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And when you were running the campaign, did you have did you have training in that area, like on how to run campaigns successfully? Like when you were coming up with the strategy, did you have like resources that you used for that? Like any useful resources that people watching can use if they're trying to run a campaign or anything like that?
I think probably in this case, because of COVID-19 and everything being social media based, it's really important to have somebody who's has a vast experience in online marketing, or somebody who's a social media wizard. And in this case, it would be our social media manager, who is Harriet, and she was amazing. You know, she really had a great idea of strategy, using Twitter, what hashtags to use. So I think that that was pivotal. I think you really need somebody who is savvy on social media, how to target audiences, and what kind of messages you get across. That was really, really important. But apart from that, no, we had no other training. What was great is we just had 3 or 4 really good heads bashing things together, and we learned very quickly what didn't work, and we picked up very quickly what did work, and we focused on that.
Yeah, having that passion to drive you, and then you can pick up the skills
That's
on
it.
the way.
Exactly, it was really a trial and error, and even when we are targeting certain personalities who weren't responding, we were targeting other people who would also like start targeting personalities as well, and that's how it ended up. Like we had, I'll give you one example. There was a certain group on Facebook that we contacted, and at first they're like, no, we're not going to share this. We don't get involved in politics. But once they started seeing movement and started seeing a lot of other people sharing it, in the end they shared it. You know.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, it's just the way it is.
And applying pressure.
Yeah, that's it. And you know, the same for many. You know, we contacted so many organizations involved in conservation, wildlife protection, everything. And so there's a handful of them that came back and said, no, sorry, we're not going to do that because it's not our campaign. If we did that, we'd never be able to push our own campaign, which, okay, I understand, but ultimately, aren't we all after the same thing? Aren't we trying to save sharks somehow? So there were times where we were pulling out our hair and going, why are they not doing this? Why all they have to do is tweet it once or share it once. And we were so surprised how many organizations were out there that didn't respond or didn't want to respond and clearly said no. That was very surprising, you know. So we've kind of made an appendix of people like in that red zone, and then we have people in our green zone.
Yeah, it is weird. We found like similar stuff. You have like a weird, it's almost like competitiveness between, instead of like, you'd think that collaboration is the way forward, like we always say that, and hence why we're doing this series and talking to lots of different people and stuff, because it benefits everyone. But sometimes there's some weird competition type vibes.
There are some organizations and people that don't play well with others, and that's just
yeah. And people need to get over their egos for the benefit of the sharks.
Really do. That's it, because ultimately we're trying to save sharks, right? It's like, that's not the point. It's about getting, get this through. This could really help sharks.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand it in a way. Yeah, that's what we learned very quickly.
Okay, did you use any like resources? Like, did you look up, I don't know, read books on like how to run campaigns, or where did you get kind of your ideas and stuff from? Was that just like kind of throwing around ideas between the team, or?
Yes, we didn't really have any training whatsoever. We would have twice a week. We'd have meetings. Still there?
You still there?
Oh yes. Sorry, just lost you for a second.
No worries. You said that you had meetings twice a week. That's where I got to. You there? Can you hear me okay? Brendon, can you hear me? We can't hear you anymore. You there?
I'm here. Yes, we're back. Okay, great.
Perfect. Awesome.
Wonderful.
So you were just saying about how you have meetings twice a week.
Yeah, sorry. We'd have meetings twice a week. There's no training involved, and we're kind of look at what worked that week, what didn't work that week, and we'd adjust. The one thing that we did have is we have some ambassadors, and in this case, we have one of our ambassadors. His name is Stevie Woods. He's an incredible photographer, and a lot of his images were the ones that we used for the campaign that were most effective. It really managed to grab people's attention. We also used some amazing artwork that was given to us by a couple of individuals that was also pivotal for the campaign. So if you look back into our history, you'll see there's a couple of fantastic illustrations. One was an illustration of somebody walking through an airport with sharks in the bag, blood coming out, saying "Welcome to the UK" on the sign. So those kind of images were really gripping. You know, as Shark Guardian, we always try to show the beautiful side of sharks. We don't like to share a lot of the blood and the gore and sharks being hacked to pieces. You know, it's not our style. But what we learned in this campaign is that people needed to see this to get shocked into action. So that was something we did learn, which was interesting. Yeah. So to a certain extent, yeah, we had to kind of go down that route and use those kind of images to get people to notice and take action. So that was interesting.
Yeah, shock tactics, it's so hit and miss. Like sometimes it really works, and then sometimes it can really like turn people off. So it's always interesting using a mix of them. We're kind of the same. Like we try not to use, especially it's quite difficult on social media using graphic images and like having to give graphic warnings, and like, you know, Instagram can blur things out and stuff. So it can be a bit tricky navigating that, but sometimes it is essential to kind of shock people, especially because I think people that work within like the shark space obviously know and have seen a bunch of images themselves about shark finning and stuff, but people that don't, like your general public that don't know about sharks and haven't worked in the space or anything, they might not necessarily know that much about it. So sometimes those very like graphic images can inspire them to take action and sign campaigns like the Inspire campaign.
Yeah, and that's what we picked up on very quickly. It was interesting.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. Okay, complete change of subject. What does a day in your life look like? You could say at the moment, or you can say like outside of COVID, because I know that things have changed so much during COVID.
Well, generally, it sounds a bit boring, but a lot of our work is done online. So when we're looking at starting campaigns that are social media driven, like the Inspire campaign that we did during COVID, it was hours and hours working online, which was basically how we got that done. So I think that sometimes when people think about, you know, you're going out on boats and you're cutting shark out in nets and stuff, it is very exciting. I have done that before. But sometimes you got to think bigger, and you know, so working on campaigns online, I think, is very important. So we're always driving stuff online, having a social media presence, being active on our website. So typically a day is getting up, catching up on emails, looking at pressing campaigns forward, coming up with strategy plans on what's coming up. You know, we try to do a 3 to 5 year plan on our campaigns and what we want to target. And so, yeah, unfortunately, it's just a lot of computer work, I'm afraid. But there are times, I think this question comes up later, like what is the favorite part of our job? That's the next question. And this is where we get to go to schools. You know, there's nothing more gratifying than going to a school, especially in Asia, where we're tackling a market or a population that does eat shark fin soup, and shark products are easy to access. So when we go into a school, and sometimes we're speaking to, you know, between 200 and 1,000 kids a day, and seeing how their faces change and how they become passionate about sharks, they fall in love with sharks, and they really take on board our messages, and they come back later saying, hey, you know, my family never goes to a shark fin restaurant again, or my family that owns a shark fin restaurant doesn't sell shark fin anymore. Those are the good days, you know, that's what I love the most, and we get the most out of. And then later, when I get to take those kids diving or snorkeling in Thailand or wherever, and we actually go out and see sharks and see their faces, that is the most rewarding part of our job, and that's what we love. We love showing how beautiful sharks are, and we love taking people out diving and snorkeling with sharks, the best.
Yeah, making those kind of like long-term impacts in people's lives, whether it be changing right there and then, or they come back to you in like a year and say, oh, I've made these changes in my life. It's always like such a kicker. We had a student come out, because we run expeditions in Mozambique, and we had a student come out here, and she was, I think she was early 40s, and she joined one of our programs because she was thinking about going into marine biology, but she wasn't sure, and she hadn't previously worked in the space, so she wanted like some field experience and, you know, see what it's like. And she went back to university. She's now doing a marine biology degree, and she emailed me the other day and was like, I'd love to work on some of your data for my dissertation, and my time with you guys has made me like go off and basically like change her whole life, which is such a like rewarding thing to hear, to hear that just spending time with someone and talking about these environmental issues, whether that be in a classroom setting or an informal setting, and then them changing the ways that they function. Like we've had that, because I do some talks in schools, not as extensive as you guys. We just do a few talks in like British schools, and we had one school that I spoke at, and they then petitioned their catering company at the school to cut single-use plastic out of their products, which I thought was really, really cool. And they were all like 11 years old, and they were doing this, and it was really like refreshing that these youngsters were like so into it. It was really, really cool.
It is the most gratifying part of the job, guaranteed, is when you're seeing that change happen in real time. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Pretty awesome. And then the like counter to that part is, what's your least favorite part of the job?
Waking up to like 50 emails.
The amount of time spent on the laptop.
The amount of time spent on a laptop means less time spending time on a boat or in the ocean. So that's probably the least favorite part of the job.
Yeah, same here. I think when people think of working in like marine conservation, whether it be sharks or any other area, people think marine conservation, and then they think like tropical, going to be in the ocean, doing stuff all the time. But I was asked recently what a typical day of my job looks like, and they were definitely expecting me to say like on the boat, in the water. And I was like, well, yeah. I have a bunch of emails, and we've just started a fundraiser, so pushing that and like contacting people and getting people to donate, and a lot of computer-based work. And I think that's the same with scientists as well in general. Like you have the like, I think Instagram obviously is quite dangerous in that respect, because you have like the lovely photos of like, look at me, I'm on a boat and I'm doing all this amazing stuff. But the actual processing of that data takes like twice as long as the actual field collection took. And that is very much like sat, because sometimes that can be sat in a lab, but also it can just be sat at your laptop, literally running like statistics and writing that data up. So I think that's always a funny misconception about working in this industry, and what it actually, reality is what people think that you do.
I mean, when I was in university in Cape Town in South Africa, I mean, I would be spending a lot of time on the boats doing data analysis on shark ID, great white shark ID. I was doing a lot of tagging work. I was testing anti-shark repellent devices. And when we were collecting data, I would always pass it on. Like I hated doing the desk work, and I hated doing the data collection. Like, let me just be on the boat and collect it. You guys take it and, you know, do whatever you want with it. I'll do the fun stuff. You guys can do the boring stuff. And there were actually a lot of people in our classes that, you know, they weren't even divers, and they would go on the boat and be sick for, you know, half the day anyway. So they were like, "Oh, Brendon, you can do the field work. You can go out on the boat and do all the, just pass us the data. Nice. We'll process it." And I was like, "No problem. That works great for me. Easy." Yeah.
Yeah, I think it also like when we had like a smaller staff body and we had a smaller volunteer base, then I was out in the field. I could be out in the field a lot more. But now, because other people have to take trips with like on the boat and stuff, I have to do more admin. I don't get out as much. So I just did my stand-up paddleboard instructor qualification, so that I'm the only qualified instructor. That means I have to take people out. So I get my time on the water.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. Someone asked, do you have any major role models in this kind of like space that you look up to, maybe growing up or even now?
When I started, when I was looking at taking Shark Guardian more international, I spent a lot of time learning how to present, and taking courses on the best way to submit information or like present information and make these are wonderful PowerPoints and everything else. But I was really inspired, funny enough, by Al Gore. He did this video documentary called An Inconvenient Truth. I don't know if anybody has seen that, but it's a powerful presentation on climate change. And the movie, I can't remember when it was released, but I just, when I saw this documentary, it's mainly a documentary of him standing on stage giving this amazing presentation. Very passionate, very scientific driven, very matter of fact kind of attitude. That really inspired me. And again, it kind of gave me a bit of a step towards how do I get people to know the amazing side of sharks, why they're important, why we have to fight for shark survival. And that was reinforced by a documentary that came out by Rod Stewart called Shark Water in 2006, I think it was. And I immediately contacted him, and we became quite close in terms of networking, became quite close in communications, all the way through until his passing, unfortunately. So I was driving his documentary wherever I went. He gave me permission to use a lot of the footage, a lot of the media. We collaborated on campaigns. We did a lot of stuff together. So I'd say that between Al Gore, the documentary, and from Rod Stewart from Shark Water, they were fundamental in me moving forward the Shark Guardian.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty good role models to have. So
yeah.
Shark Water is probably, we actually show, so we have like movie night here when we have volunteers on base, and Shark Water is one of the ones that we show because it's one of those ones. I don't think there are a lot of documentaries out like it at the time. Like, it was definitely one of the only ones that like positively focused on sharks and their like problems, but also their like importance. So I think it's just such like a integral one to like starting off when you're like first thinking about the space. And I remember watching it, well, it came out a while ago, so I must have been fairly youngish, and I watched it, and it was like one of the ones that kind of like solidified my love of sharks, and from speaking to volunteers and stuff like that it's the same for a lot of people. So I think if anyone watching this hasn't watched Shark Water, go and watch it. And The Inconvenient Truth, they're both incredible documentaries, so definitely go and check those out. And then we have the last question of the main questions. Someone asked, have you got any advice for anyone who wants to run their own NGO or run their own campaign or go into a similar career space? Anything you wish you'd known at the start?
Well, when it comes to running an NGO, prepare to do a lot of groundwork in front of computers. Unfortunately, it's like we've been talking about already. It's not so much the field work, but I think that if you are inspired and you certainly have a passion to protect something or to advocate for wildlife or whatever it is, don't lose that passion. It's very important to keep that, because when you're getting involved in running NGOs, and there are going to be up times and there's going to be down times, and when you hit those down times, that can be really down. And don't lose hope. Really believe in yourself, believe in your passion, and you keep fighting for that NGO or for that purpose. So come up with some very clear missions and values and goals, and stick by that no matter what. And eventually you will find that you'll come out the other side a better person, and you'll have something really special that you're fighting for, which is amazing.
Yeah, I always say resilience is so key. Like, I think in the NGO space, you can be told no so many times. Like, we've kind of got a running joke at the moment with our team, where when someone doesn't say no, like a flat no, they say like, oh, we're thinking about it, or we'll come back to you. Then we just say it's not a no. And it's always just like, we're always just kind of like trying to stay positive, because you do get so many no's, whether that be from funders or partners or whatever, or just supporters. So I think resilience and like getting up and still fighting for for the cause that you're working for is just such an important part of it.
Oh, absolutely. We work a lot with dive centers around the world. And, when we first started approaching dive centers about that they can become a Shark Guardian dive center, they get resources, we can support them, we do back and forth promotion online and so on. And in the beginning, a lot of them were like, they're very negative, policy, this will never change, the policies here, we live in Thailand, you'll never change anything. But then we just stuck to our guns, and we did start having influence on policies. We did start making change. We showed them, the work we're doing in schools, and very slowly we started getting a really positive response. So when you get those no's and that negativity in the beginning, just move past it, and just like I said, stick to your passion, stick to your goals, and eventually you will get there.
I do think the longer as well, we found at least that the longer you exist, the more seriously you get taken, which is a bit silly because obviously you need to start somewhere, so we should be supporting everyone right from the start. But it seems like if you've existed for 5 or more years, it does seem to get a little bit easier in terms of being taken seriously and people knowing that you're going to stick around. So
that's a very good point.
Stick through it.
Yeah.
Just got to hold on and keep going.
That's right, definitely.
Okay, cool. That's all the main questions. So anyone watching now, if you've got any questions for Brendon or me, then you can just chuck them in the comments down at the bottom and we'll get through them. We're going to move on to the quickfire questions now, which are just a bunch of fun, quick questions that we ask all of our guests. They're not necessarily marine related, but they're just our attempt to get to know you better. So if you're ready, should we jump into those?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Perfect. Okay, what's your favourite ocean creature?
Obviously, sharks.
Good. I would have been disappointed if you'd said anything else. Favourite day of the week?
Sunday, because Sunday is our no-tech day. No cell phones, no computers, no TV. We spend time as a family outdoors, on the beach, outside. No tech, nothing.
That's a good policy. What is your favourite plastic-free or eco product that you couldn't live without?
We take our water bottles everywhere, and we live in such a hot tropical climate, and we drink 5-6 liters of water a day. So we always have our reusable drinking waters, especially when we go to schools. A lot of the schools have refillables. We couldn't do without that, definitely. We stick away from plastic bottles completely.
Yeah, definitely. What's your favourite beach in the world?
Well, just south of Mozambique, there's a beautiful place in South Africa that's called Sodwana Bay. It's got amazing diving. And just above that, you got Ponta d'Ora, Ponta Malangan, where I spent a lot of time in Mozambique diving as well. And I'd say that coastline, or those beaches there, so from Ponta Malangan, d'Ora, and going to Sodwana Bay. Actually, I got married on Sodwana Bay. That is my favorite beach in the world.
Nice.
Yeah.
We've got pretty good beaches up here too, so you can keep going up that coastline.
I tell you, between Sodwana Bay and Mozambique, there's no other place like it, definitely.
Yeah. What is the last song that you listened to?
The last song I listened to, I'll just get it up here, is actually Something in the Way by Nirvana.
Nice. Bit of a throwback. Dolphins or sharks?
Sharks.
Yeah, I knew the answer.
Dolphins or sissies?
I asked it. What's your favourite holiday?
International Shark Conservation Day.
Good choice. I see a running theme here.
I'm actually joking. No, Christmas would be the most important one, of course, with the family. Definitely.
Yeah. Would you rather be able to speak every language in the world or be able to speak to animals?
Animals, definitely. I would love to be able to do that. So much, I would say.
Got to do that. There's no guarantee that they're going to want to speak to you back, though.
No, definitely not. But at least I can say, sorry, we're screwing up everything.
Yeah, that's true. As a superpower, teleportation or breathing underwater?
Breathing underwater anytime. I'd love to be able to do that.
Yeah, although we're getting close with rebreathers now, so we're not far off.
No, I'm also a free diving instructor, so I teach quite
Oh, nice.
a fair amount of free diving too, and I do love that. That's probably the closest you can get because it's not about gear, you're not on scuba. It's just you learning about more about yourself and what you're capable of, and that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And what book would you take with you onto a desert island?
There is a couple of different books I was thinking of, but one of the ones that really comes to mind is a book called The Storm. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
No, what's it about?
It's a pretty in-depth book, and basically it looks at worldwide consequences of the human race on the natural world and environment. So it tackles everything from climate change to deforestations to impacts on the oceans to wildlife decreasing worldwide, overfishing. It's a very heavy book. It can be depressing in sometimes, but there's also a lot of information about that there's still hope. There's a lot of things we can do to turn this around very quickly. So it's a really fantastic read for anybody who wants to be inspired to get into the world of NGOs or conservation or anything within that theme. The Storm is a really great book to look at.
Who's that by?
Oh, sorry, I don't know right now. We'll have to look it up.
No, it's all good. We'll look it up afterwards, and I'll post it with this video. What's the first thing that you're going to do when things get back to normal?
I'm going to go do a liverboard somewhere. A liverboard diving.
Nice. That'd be lovely. Have you got anywhere in mind?
Yeah, actually, I have a pretty good relationship with the owner of, well, do you know Rodney Fox Expeditions in South Australia?
Rings a bell.
So Rodney Fox is this old, really lovable Australian old man. He was attacked once by a great white shark and survived, and in such he opened up a great white shark museum, and he takes people diving with great white sharks in South Australia. So his son and I are pretty good mates, and I need to go dive with him.
Yeah, sounds good. And then the last question: why do you love the oceans?
Because oceans is life. Without the oceans, there is no life. Every living thing on this planet depends on the ocean. And we have to do everything we can to protect it. Because otherwise, we're all in danger, aren't we? And ultimately, the reason why we love sharks so much is because, well, sharks actually is exactly what the oceans depend on. Healthy oceans need sharks. So they're the most important species to protect. Oceans and sharks are the same thing.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, we've got a few minutes before we need to finish this up. So do you have any upcoming projects that you want to talk about, or any campaigns or actions that you want people to take?
Yeah, so one of the other campaigns that we're doing right now is we're trying to get as many airlines, shipping companies, and postal services to ban the transportation of shark fin. So we're wanting airlines to ban cargoing shark fin anywhere in the world. So we're trying to cut off the supply chain of sharks moving around the world, either by sea, land, or air. So we have a campaign right now that's called Fly Without Fins, where it's a Twitter-based campaign where we have people texting and twittering all different airlines around the world each week to get them to ban shark fin or transporting shark fin. So if you go to the webpage, there's a campaign page. It's called Fly Without Fins. .com or .org, I think it is. And from there, you can actually see there's a full list of all the airlines. There's all you have to do is click the link that says Twitter. The text comes up automatically on your Twitter account. All you have to do is send. Very
awesome.
easy.
That's very
easy.
So
have a look at that when you have a chance.
Yeah,
so that's a really good campaign. I think altogether there's more than 50 airlines who have already banned the transfer of the cargo of shark fin. So now it's putting pressure on all the other airlines on that list, and all of them are on that list. It's to pressurize them to do the same thing.
That's awesome. We'll definitely post a link to that on our stories and on this video and all the rest of it too. And anyone watching it, please do go onto that website and participate in that too. From our side, this video, if you've missed any of this video, there's been some really great conversations around conservation and sharks. If you missed any of it, then you can check it out on our YouTube after this and also on our IGTV. And if you're watching this right now, in your top left-hand corner, I think, you should be able to follow both of the Oceans and Shark Guardian. So please do give us both follows. With each follow for both NGOs, it really helps our reach when we run campaigns, and it helps spread the message. It helps people take us more seriously with sponsors and things. So if you can't donate, if you can't participate, then please at least follow and share posts. And there's plenty of links in Shark Guardian's bio on the Finspire Change UK campaign, but also the current Fly Without Fins campaign that Brendon was just talking about. Cool. Thank you very much for participating today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.
It's been lovely chatting to you, and I'll send you through the YouTube link when we have it, and yeah, I will share send through anything you'd like us to share. We're happy to share it, so feel free to send it through.
Will do. Thank you so much for everything.
No worries. Thanks for coming on. Have a great evening.
Sure. Thank you. Have a good day.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.